There is no evidence that consuming dietary cholesterol increases the risk of blood cholesterol in most people.
Hey, I'm Angie.
And I'm Ryan.
And we're
Happy Healthy Vegan. So yesterday, we were watching the debate on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Grueling.
Yeah, Kresser versus Dr. Joel Kahn. And I knew you were walking in and out of the room. You weren't too into it, huh?
Dude, yeah, okay, I remember I looked at Instagram and he had just posted like 5 minutes before, we're going live, watch now. So I texted Ryan, I was like, it's happening! And then I tried to just stay away from the house for as long as possible until finally I was like, I have to go home and get some lunch. And I was like, how is it still going on? And then it still went on for another hour. How long were they debating for?
3 hours and 40 minutes, marathon.
Oh, it was brutal. And I was getting more and more mad and anxious the longer it went on. And Chris Kresser's like, no.
Yeah, Chris, a lot of people gave Joel some criticism for how he handled this debate against Kresser, and I think anyone would have had the same troubles that Joel did, because Chris just kept firing study after study after study, and the problem is that these studies weren't landmark studies that most people in the field would know about. They were outlier studies, so there was no way for Dr. Kahn or anyone to be really prepared and know how to respond and dispute these studies. So that was my goal for this video, is to go through a few of Chris's studies that he referred to, but the first one I picked, it was so full of errors and such a rabbit hole. I'm going to devote most of this video going through it, because as you'll see, the study that Chris brings up to support his position about eggs and cholesterol and heart disease supports Dr. Kahn more than it does Chris.
Why am I not surprised?
Let's jump in.
All right. Okay, so about midway in, Chris Kresser throws out this little nugget.
They've done controlled feeding studies where they've fed people 2 to 4 eggs a day, and those show that in 75% of cases that has zero impact on blood cholesterol levels. For the other 25% of people, they're termed hyperresponders, and in that group, dietary cholesterol does modestly increase LDL cholesterol, but it also increases HDL cholesterol, and it does not increase the risk of heart disease.
I'm going to stop Chris right here and jump to the conclusion of his study here to see what it actually says about heart disease risk. It says, however, dietary cholesterol may have detrimental effects on coronary heart disease amongst hyperresponders and people with type 2 diabetes.
But he said it does not.
But the study says otherwise. It says it probably does.
This is why the guidelines were changed on dietary cholesterol. Is there is no evidence that consuming dietary cholesterol increases the risk of blood cholesterol in most people.
So Chris is saying eating foods containing cholesterol have no effect on your blood cholesterol. It doesn't raise it. Well, let's go fact check this study that Chris is referring to.
Okay, so we went over to Chris Kresser's official site and found an article where he's writing all about his belief on cholesterol and saturated fats.
And if you read through this blog post, you'll see the exact study he's talking about here. Here's the controlled feeding study, 2 to 4 eggs a day, and hyper-responders. So we clicked on the footnote here, link number 2, to see this study he's referring to, and we see here, it's just a PubMed abstract. Not much to go on, but the very last line of the abstract says, this article reviews the current evidence on the association between dietary cholesterol and risk of CHD. So this is not a new study on its own. It's a review of other studies. So anyway, let's go take a look at this complete full study because I have access to the entire text.
Okay, so Ryan looked through the article with multiple studies and found the one study that Chris is focused on about the 4 eggs per day.
Yeah, this study actually measured changes in people's levels of inflammation, like C-reactive protein, and changes in cholesterol after consuming eggs. So yeah, in the references to the study, they link to the whole, full name of this study. So I looked it up, and here it is, the full text of it printed in the Journal of Circulation.
And lo and behold, look what's listed in the disclosure.
Yeah, 2 of the researchers received funding from the American Egg Board.
What a conflict of interest.
Yeah, Chris didn't mention anything about this as far as eggs and cholesterol, but let's get back to what Chris was saying earlier, that this study was a controlled feeding study.
They've done controlled feeding studies.
But reading through the methods section of the study, it's really not as rigorous as Chris makes it sound, like they were being fed in a metabolic ward, or at least like in a hospital or a clinical situation. It just says that they were given frozen daily portions of egg preparation, making no mention as to where they were consuming this at. But let's not dwell on that.
All right, just a bit vague.
So here's what's really important though. These researchers said in their own words, we found that among healthy community-dwelling individuals, egg feeding was associated with significant increases in inflammatory marker levels in lean, insulin-sensitive subjects.
Meaning healthy, non-diabetic,
Yeah,
non-hospitalized
non-insulin resistant people, healthy people. But here, though, is what blows Chris's theory apart. These own researchers in the study that Chris himself is referring to said egg feeding was associated with a significant increase in non-HDL cholesterol. We're talking about bad cholesterol in these same healthy subjects.
There is no evidence that consuming dietary cholesterol increases the risk of blood cholesterol.
Bro, you literally linked to the evidence.
That disproves your theory. You linked to this here. However, let's take a look at what the researchers found about obese and or insulin-resistant subjects. For them, if you added dietary cholesterol to their diets, there was much less of a pronounced effect in increased lipid levels.
So let's get back to his blog because something really caught my eye. What is this 25% of the population being referred to as hyper responders?
Sounds really scary,
It
responding to dietary cholesterol. It's what the researchers called just healthy subjects, those who were lean and were not pre-diabetic, not resistant to insulin.
Oh.
So yeah, these healthy subjects, when they ate dietary cholesterol, it appeared in increased levels of blood cholesterol.
As we would have thought.
Yeah.
So, but then the way he says it, though, it's like opposite land. Dietary cholesterol has very little impact.
If
He should say if you're already overweight, obese, pre-diabetic, or diabetic in the 75%, because that correlates almost directly with the nationwide averages, right?
Yeah, 75% of Americans are overweight or obese. So if you're really honest, you wouldn't tell people who are healthy when they eat dietary cholesterol that their cholesterol levels won't rise. I mean, that's just plainly false, according to the own study that you put up on your own website and used against Dr. Khan. Instead, you're telling people this.
There is no evidence that consuming dietary cholesterol increases the risk of blood cholesterol.
So getting back to this study, this paper that Chris linked to and used against Dr. Khan, the study that was a review of many other studies, I was looking for any other reference studies that involved egg consumption. There's one here that involved male medical students consuming 2 eggs per day for 12 weeks. So in this University of Missouri study, they found that medical students who abstained from eating eggs for 12 weeks resulted in a statistically significant lower total cholesterol level at the end of 6 weeks and at 12 weeks.
Boom.
There is no evidence that consuming dietary cholesterol increases the risk of blood cholesterol.
And here's another from the review of studies that Chris used against Dr. Khan. The study compared eggs enriched in omega-3s versus regular eggs. And the conclusion was mean plasma cholesterol concentration was significantly increased by the regular control eggs.
There is no evidence that consuming dietary cholesterol increases the risk of blood cholesterol.
So this is just like mind-blowing that the paper that Chris brought up as support of his theory, when you actually read the paper and then read the various studies that are referred to in the paper, it fully supports Dr. Khan's position.
Yeah, study after study after study in the papers that Chris presented here show that when healthy individuals consume dietary cholesterol, there's a corresponding raise, a significant raise in serum cholesterol. And I want to reiterate again, this is just the first of Chris's studies that he referred to that I fact-checked. I went down a deep rabbit hole here, and this is just one out of how many did he cite in that 3.5 hours? Maybe 100.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to do another episode exploring some of Chris's scientific claims and facts here. So why don't you guys comment down below? Of the many that he cited, which one would you like me to look into next?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And do you want a whole series of these?
Because I can do it. Yeah, because this is quite enlightening to see what's really going on with Chris's science here, how it actually supports the vegan position more so than his.
That's what was so annoying yesterday, is that he kept trying to say that like his papers were like so important and proved his point, and Dr. Khan's were BS.
Yeah, Chris thought that Dr. Khan's science was old and Chris's were new, groundbreaking, paradigm shifting. Everything you learned in the past is gone. Leave your questions and comments down below. Hit like if you like this video. Share it with a friend who's into eating paleo or is a Chris Kresser fan, and make sure you're subscribed. Hit the notification bell to get notified for new videos, live streams, and activity on our channel's community tab. So, that's about it.
Yeah.
Until next time, guys, keep it carb, baby. Keep it carb.
You're changing falling to the ground. You got me spinning circles round and